Camera's rolling.
Maybe I'm too young to know any better, but I guess I'm just too old to care. I'm waiting on the morning light to clear the air. Now the sky is hung with regret, letting go that you pay black. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at me now. I'm the one that you created. The one that you hated. The one that you hated.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Dad Talk Today. Mr. DW, Dwayne Ward, is in the house. Dwayne, what's up, man?
What's up? I gotta tell you, I hadn't heard the music in a while. I gotta tell you, I love Jimmy's stuff, but just hearing the Dad Talk Today, the OG kicking it in there,
Got a
just
feel
kind
to it, don't it?
of got the, the heart grew 3 times the size or whatever that old thing is. It was good. How you feeling?
Doing all right, man. General Miller, Jules, Pat, what's going on, everybody?
What's up?
Doing all right. You guys, we got something historic coming up tomorrow, and this can be a little bit of a gaslighting or divisive situation. It can be. We're not going to make it. So I want you to join in on the conversation. There's 2 things in life that people tell you not to talk about, and religion is politics. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, religion, you know what? I'm respectful of that. I've got my views on that, and I'm respectful of other people's. But when it comes to politics, our world is in a situation right now that it's hard to explain. It's the most divisive I have ever seen. There is friends,
Nuts.
family, coworkers. There's all kinds of people getting in these heated arguments. It's hard to get online now. You can't even watch a video about bacon and cake without somebody like arguing
Literally.
about Biden and Trump in the comments, And I want to make sure that, while doing this, that I'm working towards a world for my kids and my grandkids where they
Right.
will be able to talk about these things and find a middle ground, because we should be able to do that. We don't have to agree, but let's get in here and let's talk and let's conversate. And there's some things that's going on that, we were talking earlier, Dwayne. I said, man, I want to get on Dad Talk and I want to talk about this. It's been a while. So guys, thank you for being here. Before we kick this off, let me say we are a listener-supported podcast. This channel does not operate without you. We are not mainstream media, which we will be talking a lot about today.
Sweet.
But if you would like to support our podcast, down there at the bottom, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. We also have Substack. If you have not seen the new Dad Talk Studios documentary, Lost Innocence, the story of Sophia Larson, you need to go check it out. We have gotten rave reviews on it, guys. I've got it going to a couple of movie theaters sometime soon in Colorado. We're looking at getting into several different film festivals. It is amazing. It was the biggest project that I've worked on to date, and you can see it right now over on the Substack, dadtalktoday.substack.com. With that being said, Dwayne, how are you feeling about this upcoming election, man?
I'm wanting to say I'm feeling pretty confident that my candidate's going to do well.
Yeah.
Keep it there. Yeah, I mean, you're spot on with the divisiveness, the name calling, and I think you're literally right about 2 people talking about baking something and getting it, and then someone jumping in there and saying, Harris is better than Trump, and Trump's of this, Harris is of that. It's just crazy how far we fall now. I mean, I've got a lot more gray hair on me than you do, and I remember a time when both parties could actually have a conversation and be respectful of each other's differences. Now we are, totalitarian, Hitler-esque, raised. Just the name calling and it's just gotten nuts. We can't have hey, let's sit down and talk about things and have a battle of the ideas respectfully, and then
Yeah.
the best idea wins. That's the way it should be. You think?
Going into this, I'll tell people up front, I've definitely got my views. I lean more to the right, but I am not there all the way. There's times I'm open-minded, and, I don't claim to be anything. I am a human being. I'm an American, and I want what's best for our country. But if there's somebody there that does not agree with the things that we are saying, guys, please put it in the comments. We want to conversate with you. I'm not going to be doing the name calling and stuff like that. But if we can get respectful conversation in there, that's why we're trying to do this. At one point in time, not that long ago, I was trying to put together a project for like a network for men.
Mm-hmm.
One of the shows that I was going to do on it, I had found 3 really good political analysts. One was libertarian, one was Democrat, and one was Republican. And I was going to call it left, right, and center. That way, everybody and their views was represented, and they could come on and they could talk it out. Because let's be honest, where do you find something like that now? You don't.
Yeah, you get your echo chamber.
Yeah. Whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, they all have a political leaning. And we don't have anything known as the news anymore. It's opinion pieces.
Right.
And it's sad because most of them are funded by Big Pharma. I've been saying for a good while now, man, it's interesting to see it happen this election. I was having this talk with my mom earlier. She gets her news from the mainstream media. And I was like, well, did you listen to the podcast with Joe Rogan? For the first time, I think my mom actually listened to a podcast that wasn't mine.
She's a Roganer?
No, but they wanted to listen to that. I think that thing's been listened to like almost 50 million times, man, or 45 million. Wow. It's a lot of views. And I honestly think that, I saw this happening with podcasts a long time ago. That's why I got into the podcasting, because on mainstream media, you have a very limited time that you can actually sit and talk about a topic. Right. When you're talking about something as important as the economy, the immigration, and all that, you should have more than just a few minutes, because you got a lot that you got to hash out there, right?
Right.
And so you're limited on that time. Then you've got the political bias, and it's very hard to tell who's who. You get these really canned, fake responses on there.
Right.
And now here you go. You see Donald Trump, and then J.D. Vance, and then John Fetterman afterwards. 2 people that are on complete different sides of the spectrum with each other. But you get to listen to them for 3 hours. You really get to know who they are. Yeah. And I think that's amazing. I think by the time the next election cycle gets here, podcasts are going to be the main way that people are getting their information, the mainstream media, a little tiny bit. And I making the prediction now, guys, we're talking about 8 years from tomorrow. I think by the following election, mainstream media is going to be gone. Yeah. God willing. I can't wait for it.
God willing. I mean, yeah. Well, they've done so much, and you can tell they're being paid for by Big Pharma and corporations. They're not presenting the news. Right. And unfortunately, people are taking these little sound bites or these special clips, and then they're going, oh, well, so-and-so's a bad candidate because of this shortened clip that they've made to sound a certain way. And, I see one candidate being, told or it's being said that they did this, this, and this. And then you go, and if you're to have the time, you go back and you watch the entire clip, and you're like, that's not what happened.
Oh, you're definitely right, man. And that's as I've been watching this, I've been wanting to put it on social media. I haven't quite thought of the way that I wanted to word it. I've actually been trying to stay away from social media, because I won't lie. I get on here and I read this stuff and I get gaslit because I've got opinions on it. And I'm like, but I don't want to get in a conversation or argument with somebody today, because you can make a point, but most of the time, dude, nobody's listening to actually learn. They're just in there firing off their opinions. But what's going on in this election, for anybody that has watched this show knows a lot of times we talk about family court. Okay. What you're watching going on in that election between Trump and Harris reminds me of a family court fight. Yeah. I'm going to bring up anything I can. I've got the biggest weapon that they have in this is a shovel. We're going to dig up all your past, any little thing that I can get to throw at you to make your character look bad. Right. We're going to use it. They're looking for the littlest sound bites. One day it's Tony Hinchcliffe, a comedian, talking about Puerto Rico, and they thought they had something less than 24 hours. The president of the United States is calling half of America garbage.
Right.
It's been one of the craziest news cycles of all time, dude.
Every day, I've had to stop watching it just for my own sanity. But yeah, it's nutty. You turn the TV on, and the stuff that they're coming at you with. I mean, they've been calling Trump, equating him to Adolf Hitler repeatedly, and you just sit there like, what? Where is this coming from? Or it's nutty. It's insanity.
Well, that was when I texted you early this morning and was talking about wanting to do this show.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main reason why I wanted to do this. I've seen it happen for the past 8 years. But here this past year, it's really escalated, and especially the last month or so, where they are making this comparison of Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. All right. I don't care if you dislike a guy or you hate him. That is your right. You have that right, and you are okay to make that opinion. But let's just talk about something in the reality of this here. Adolf Hitler was a guy that is responsible for the murder, genocide, torture of around 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, guys. One of the most disgusting and despicable human beings to ever exist. And you're taking this guy and you're comparing him to somebody over here that put us through no new wars, guys.
Zero.
No new wars. And look, there is plenty that you can criticize Donald Trump for.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be the first one to tell you that. But calling him Hitler, and then we're wondering why there's been several assassination attempts on his life.
Right.
What if somebody posed the question, if you knew Hitler was alive and what he was going to be doing, would you try to stop him? And because
Right.
the media has stoked and fueled those flames on the fire, man, I believe a lot of that responsibility rests on their shoulders. How in the world are you going around? I mean, when did it become popular? To anybody I dislike, I call them Hitler.
Yeah. When did that happen? It's insane.
And it's 6 million Jews, guys. Not only does it show your stupidity, but you need to shut the hell up. There is a lot of people here who has had ancestors that probably died in that. And it's like a slap, a spit in the face,
Oh, yeah.
Again, you can dislike somebody, but that just shows I honestly think I used to think it was kind of crazy when I would hear the conservatives talk about that Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, come on, man. We don't need to be putting labels on stuff. As time has went by, I've noticed there are some people that, we talk about, go back to family court again. A lot of times a dad can see his kid if mom would just let him. But her hatred for him is more than the love for the child.
Right.
And when it comes to this country, it's very similar. Their hatred for him is more than their love for the nation. Like when these people hate, they hate him.
Hate.
Like
you see it in
next
their eyes.
level hate. I'm going to get to a couple of these comments, and guys, man, give us your questions, comments. We want to feed off you. And again, feel free. I'm actually somewhat begging you. I want you to disagree because I want to hear from the other side.
Yeah.
I don't want to create an echo chamber here. We can do this peacefully and patriotically.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
And patriotically. Let's see if that works out well. Mike Paserb on here said, no one alive today actually knows what it's like to live in a constitutional republic. I would like all of us to give it a try. I'm with you, man. I really am with you. Pat Catalano said, I vote to save the kids. This election has transgender on the ballot. Unfortunately, we all know what happens is Kamala and 10 on 10 win. So, I mean, dude, I do got to bring that up because that's one of the number one things that I'm going into this election. I can't believe that we have an issue. It's one thing to have abortion on there, okay? And I understand people's got their different thoughts on that. Right. And we can open that up and talk about it. That's a controversial issue.
Yeah.
But the fact that we would think it's okay to do these gender transition surgeries on kids and guys, I've actually heard the argument. A lot of people say that, oh, that's not really a real thing. You won't find a case where that's actually going on. Or if you do, it's very, very rare. These are people that have no idea what's actually going on, because that
Right.
is becoming more and more increasingly common. One thing that you're not going to see is a dad trying to push that on his kid. It's most of the time single moms that are pushing this on a kid. And now it has gotten attached to this left ideology.
Right.
And there's people that think that it's okay to have these operations on kids. And they're
Right.
using these chemicals that nobody, originally Lupron. Man, I hope I'm not going to get the red flag on this show, but we're just going to go ahead and we're going to put it out there. I mean, we're going to fight like hell, man. Lupron was made for pedophiles that were in prison to chemically castrate them.
Right.
Now we're using it as a puberty blocker, a hormone blocker, and giving it to these kids, man, that should not be making these type of decisions. You're talking about messing a kid up for the rest of their life, man.
Well,
That boy cannot be a girl. He will never give birth. He will never have a period, and vice versa. And
Right.
we are talking about doing life-changing decisions to these
on a
kids.
kid.
I can't believe we're even talking about this. And I do have to believe that I think that's the reason that the left is losing a lot of people in droves, man, is because it's, they've done a really good job at like, here's all these issues and we stand for them. And they just get more and more and more radical.
Yeah.
I know that there is a lot of people under that banner, but when they hear about these operations for kids, they're like, no. I mean, even the gay movement, man. I was listening to some of the gays earlier saying, look, we don't even want to be a part of this. They've put us inside this LGBTQIA alphabet community, and people are thinking that we support this going on with kids. Hey, no, we don't.
It's crazy. It's weird. It's like a kid can't get a pack of smokes. They can't vape. They can't drive. They can't drink alcohol. They can't do all these different things, but we're going to say it's okay for them to try to change their gender at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. It makes it just makes no sense. And yeah, you're right. I do hear a lot of the from the left. I'd say they're left / moderate, or they're the old school Democrats coming out and saying, you know what, we're not for this. But it's just weird that, that's become their mainstream topic, is those issues, abortion on demand and the whole transgender issue. And the logic just fails me, because they don't want to have, they want to, have kids transition. They're okay with that, but then they're okay with, women or men and women's sports. I mean, it defies logic.
Man, one of the interviews I did, it's been about 2 years ago now. Man, time flies by. But I got to sit down when I was in Dallas with Riley Gaines, that lost to the male claiming to be female, Leah Thomas, swimmer. Riley had been doing this her whole life, man. Like missing out on family events, missing out on doing like extracurricular activities for herself. Like she trained her whole life to do this swimming competition. And here comes this guy, all right, that claims that he's a girl. He couldn't even place in the top in the men's sport. He was like way down on the list.
Yeah.
Comes over to women's sports. And so like, I'm not going to act like I am an expert on swimming competitions, because I promise you I'm not. But she said in their sport, that competition, it is so competitive and so close that people are winning by like the millisecond, right?
Right.
Like they have to really slow it down and see what's going on. So to win by like, seconds is like almost unheard of in many cases. Leah Thomas, when she got in there, was beating people by seconds, right?
Right.
And so Riley actually tied with her.
I was hoping you're going to bring that up. She actually tied with
her. And the story goes that they told Riley they only had one trophy.
Yep.
Okay. And because the press and everybody was there, that she had to let Leah get the trophy and get the pictures, and that they would send her trophy later.
Right.
Imagine being this woman that's, busted your ass, worked hard for everything that you got. And now you're being told that this person that claims that they're a different gender that came in here and just started wiping out the competition gets the trophy, and you have to sit back, all because this can get us a little bit of press. And, we're following the woke culture.
Yeah, it's crazy. South Park was right.
It
They
was,
predicted
man.
it.
You know, people talk about The Simpsons being right. South Park is catching up.
I remember when it all went down. I'm like, wait, I remember watching South Park and them talking about that, and then and then it turns out, that's what happened. It's just insanity. But I'm glad you brought that up because it wasn't he beat her; they tied, and the group came together and said, no, he has to get the trophy so we can get all the we can be LGBT TV and all that stuff sensitive, and we're pushing you away. It's just insanity.
It is, man. It is. Daniel Duran's on here said
Oh.
it is much harder to have a conversation here in Canada. I guess China/Canada. Thanks to Trudeau's bill to ban news stories on Facebook. He has blindfolded onlookers to the dissenting Trudeau's on every scandal he continues to perpetrate. Trudeau's bill to ban news stories on Dwayne, can you look that up for me, man? That's a new one by me. I didn't know that he had done this.
Oh, yeah.
And here's my thing, man. Like when you start trying to ban access to information and you're not giving like the general population credit enough to think that they can, find out what's going on, that you have and see, man, it's getting to me in every way. The first thing that I think of is like, here's this guy saying, this is the information that you got to have. You can't have any of this other information. And these will be the first people when they talk about Donald Trump to call him a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's look this up.
Yeah.
Meta's news ban in Canada remains online. News Act goes into effect. That was December 19th, 2023. Scroll on down for me. A bill that mandates tech giants pay news outlets for their content has come into effect in Canada amid ongoing dispute with Facebook and Instagram owner Meta over the law. I just read it out loud, but I gotta actually take that.
Absorb this,
mandates pay news outlets for their content.
And the thing is, people in America are, oh, that'll never happen. It's already happening. Well, I mean, it's already happening to us in America, but in Canada, if you say anything that is not pro LGBTQ or you're against it in any way, they will put you in jail. We've seen this. I mean, it's coming, and I'm shocked that the left is okay with that. Don't they understand that that's that is the end game for that way of thinking? I mean, you should be allowed to. We have freedom of speech. I read it somewhere, and not being allowed to share your opinion, your position on something like that, having that removed, that's un-American.
When they try to limit your access to speech, it's not because of the misinformation. Most of the time, it's because they fear what you have to say.
Right.
And I think they have put themselves in the corner so much that look at this election, dude. Kamala, it's crazy, man. 6 months ago, nobody would have ever thought she would be on the ballot. They didn't even want her.
Zero votes. Not one. Zero.
Elected, man. But watching, so make sure that I keep that media is rolling this thing. Even the media was completely against her, and then all of a sudden, she gets inserted in there at that DNC, and overnight she becomes like the model of who we need for this country. This bright first female black president. Like just
Indian or black
on there?
Because she was black 20 years ago when she was not 20 years ago, but she was black. The same news place covered it, the black part and then the Indian part. And I got a 30-day personal ban for putting both articles up on my Facebook page, but that's a different story. But no, she was the first black senator or whatever. Then, so I'm sorry, she was the first Indian. No, yeah, I can't figure out which one it is.
You jumped the shark, man.
I did. And the Dems have a history of not liking one person one day and then loving them the next. Dick Cheney. Cough
so,
there.
Yeah.
Whew, cough.
So you bring up another interesting thing. That'll take us on into immigration. Guys, we have had estimated 8 to 10 million, if not more. They really don't know how many illegal immigrants have came across our border.
Right.
And look, let's take the political rhetoric and the party lines down for a minute. Can we talk to each other as Americans and as human beings, not as Republican, not as Democrat right now?
Right.
If for any of you that was alive back in 2001, I'll always remember that day very vividly for the rest of my life. I was home from school. I don't remember why. I was probably suspended. If I had to guess, I just remember I was.
We'll
I was home
assume
from
you were
school
suspended
that day.
Yeah.
And I got a knock on my door, and it was my dad. And he said, "Eric, get in here now." I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "Son, get in here." When I walked in, I was like, "What's going on?" He said, I remember his words. He said, "You're about to see history." And so I had no idea what he was talking about. And as I sat down, right after I sat down is when the second plane was hitting the towers.
Wow.
And I said, "Daddy, what is going on?" And, he started explaining it to me. You're not going to see this online now, but I remember as I was watching it live, 2001, that means I'd have been about to turn 17. It was right before I turned 17. I remember seeing people jump off
Jumping.
the top of the towers, going
Yeah.
all the way down because they was burning, how much torture they was in. Like, we watched as that was going on. You're talking about thousands of people that died. It was a terrorist attack on our nation. When that happened, we didn't give a shit if you were Republican, Democrat, black, white, Asian, Mexican. None of that mattered.
Right.
You had attacked our homeland, and we were pissed off. And it was one of those moments that, unless you was there, Gen Z, you don't ever want a moment like that. You don't want to feel that like we did. The one thing that I wish Gen Z could feel would be the moments after that, when our country came together and locked arms. It was the most patriotic time that I remember since I was alive, dude. I mean, we wanted answers for what happened on 9/11. And so to sit there and watch that happen, Dwayne, people jumping out and watching all that smoke and people walking around the cities, and the firefighters and everybody that, sacrificed their lives trying to save people, and knowing that we have just opened up our borders, allowing people to come over. We have no idea who's came in. A lot of them have been rapists. A lot of them have been murderers. This has been proven. A lot of them are felons.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And, I would not be surprised if there's not a repeat, dude. Like, I pray to God nothing like that ever happens again. But who in the world would have thought that we would have had an administration, or we would have actually had American citizens that thought it was okay? What's crazy is, like, the same people that were, for this, just 4 short years ago, most of them have came to the other side and said, hey, we've messed up here.
Yeah, we're wrong. Sorry.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but for 8 years, we've heard people talk about how racist and bad Donald Trump was for building that wall.
Oh, God.
Did you know that Kamala and them, they're trying to build the wall?
She's
She's trying to get a bill through to build the wall.
Right.
And so she was on a news outlet the other day, and it was a liberal news outlet. They were throwing her some softballs, and they was like, we've heard people criticize, Trump on the wall. Are you planning on building the wall? What's your thoughts on the wall? And she said, "I'm glad you bring up Donald Trump. Let's bring up Donald Trump." And everything became Donald Trump. She couldn't talk about those issues.
Right.
It's like, man, when you got somebody that can't even answer the questions, and guys, the media allows this. Not only that, I think it was the 60 minute. Did you see the 60 Minutes interview where they asked her a question and she fumbled all over it? Word salad. They
edited one,
edited it, or took something completely different from a different question, put it in there, and made her sound like she knew what she was talking about.
Right.
For anybody that doesn't think there is election fraud, that right there, my friends, is election fraud.
Yeah.
They are tampering in the election by making it look like they're saying something that they really didn't. And they're broadcasting it out there for millions of people to see it. That right there is election fraud. Am I wrong?
No. And they should be held accountable.
They should be held accountable. Absolutely.
And fired. And because I remember journalistic integrity, their job was to go in there. And I don't care if it's right, wrong, or what, they reported the news. And they were held to a high standard. Now they're just, whatever bleeds leads, whatever they, whoever owns them, that's who they listen to. And it's ridiculous. I want to get back to the Walter Cronkite days. Yeah, have people Google that, because most of you don't even know who he is. He reported the news. That was it. He was good until the end. At the very end, he got a little
Really?
like, yeah. I mean, was that Jenner? Again, there's so many.
It was probably another one. I think Koppel always, I've heard him actually talk about it not too long ago, actually, about how their job is not to be opinionated, and how back in the day, the anchor was supposed to be delivering the news and just talking about the news, not themselves. And now we've got people that try to build up themselves with the show.
Right.
The whole show is named after them, and they have a political bias, and there's not any news in there. It's all opinion. If I wanted to go right now, or if you or anybody in our audience is watching right now wanted to go and get the news with no political stance on it, where do you go?
I'll go podcast now.
I mean, but even the podcast, but the podcasts at least are open about it. Right. What did we do when we opened this up? Both of us have a lean to the right. Absolutely.
Yeah, admit it. Yeah.
I'll admit that to you. And I'm, again, because I don't want any of our, audience that's liberal or libertarian or anything to be turned off by that. I actually invite you to sit here and discuss with me.
Yeah.
I don't play that like this is what my party's supposed to stay for. So go with immigration, for example. We need to know who's coming across our border. I am also of the other part that we make it way too hard to get in our country, dude.
Oh yeah.
I got family that are friends that are like family to me that have been trying to get their family over here from years from Africa. They've been doing it for 10 years and still don't have them over here. Some of the most productive, loving people I've ever met in my life. And we have just made it almost impossible for them to get over. Do what they need to do, get them over here, let them become productive members of society and live the American dream. We need hardworking people over here.
Yeah. Vet them and get them over here. Yeah.
So there's, I would say that's kind of middle of the road. I want it vetted, but I want them over here too. Let's get them over here. Let's become that melting pot, abortion. That's one of those things. It's either you're for it or you're against it, man. I don't want to go too far on that because that's when the situation gets heated.
Get canceled.
Yeah, man. I do not believe in abortion as a form of birth control.
Oh, yeah.
That's not my body, my choice. You made a choice. That's your consequence. My choice, my consequence. At the same time, for somebody that didn't make that choice and that has gotten raped, man, I don't think I could ever look at somebody like that and say, you have to have that child. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where it gets complicated to me. But we could find some middle of the road solutions if we was able to have those conversations. And it's going to be a very weird time because some Republicans and Democrats really used to meet in the middle, and they have to you got to have a majority and other people vote on it to get these laws passed. Man, it's going to become to where they're just going to filibuster everything, my way or the highway.
And they have. And there's been
they are.
It's crazy. Well, it's mentioned when you mentioned the A word. I've seen in the last few days people talking about someone that tried to get one, they couldn't, and they died, and it was all so and so's fault and everything. And then when you actually read the information, the data on it, you find out that's not the case at all.
Right. That's
the part I don't like. And that was why it was so refreshing to watch the guy on CNN. Was it Hobart, Herbert?
So I'm actually going to bring it up. And it wasn't CNN. It was Washington Post.
Washington. Yeah, Washington Post.
Which is really weird, guys. If the media was actually doing their job and telling you what's going on right now, I have to look again. I know, like I said, I've got a lean, but I'm just going to give it to you straight.
Yeah.
Right now, the media is running the campaign for Kamala. They're doing more for her campaign than she is.
Right.
And just like a couple of weeks ago, I believe Jeff Bezos started, putting his thumb down on the Washington Post, and he said, "Look, we're not endorsing the candidate for the first time in decades.
Ever.
Like we're not endorsing her. We're not going to endorse candidates anymore." They lost 200,000 subscribers off of him saying that, and I forget how many workers quit because he didn't want to endorse the left.
Right.
That was kind of a wake-up call. But not just that, man. Union workers, there's all sorts of different places that typically have aligned with that left that said, we're not doing it this time, you know? And the other day, they was having a Washington Post show. I guess it was just yesterday or the day before. And they started talking about that there was something that went on in Pennsylvania where there were voters there to vote, and they closed the polls down where the voters couldn't vote. And it was illegal. Trump sued them, and they had to reopen the polls for a couple of days and make sure that those people could vote.
Yep.
Now, when they was on the Washington Post, they were trying to say that Trump is setting the stage for another January 6th type deal. They're already trying to say he's going to try to contest it to make it look like he brings up any doubts that, you know, they're misguided and not true. Right. And the reporters stopped him in the middle of it. One of the old school reporters, the only few that's left, like I was talking about, and said, hey, that's not true. You know, I get that you've got an opinion, but we have to give the real story here. Right. I've got that pulled up so we can watch it.
Yeah.
So, and I found a lot of respect for this for doing that.
Yeah.
This is it right here. Hugh Hewitt on the Washington Post.
Is it me, or does it seem like this week Donald Trump is laying the groundwork for contesting the election by complaining that cheating was taking place in Pennsylvania by suing Bucks County for alleged irregularities? And this is on top of his continual assertion that if he loses, it's because of cheating.
Yeah, that's what he's been laying the groundwork for this, just not in the last week, but in the last umpty months. No election can be fair unless in Donald Trump's mind, unless Donald Trump wins it. And I think we are going to see him both rev up his supporters to contest elections outside of courtrooms and go to every courtroom he can in America where it's relevant to make whatever arguments he can, no matter how far-fetched. We saw
Jonathan,
I've got last time, but it didn't work out.
Finish, Hugh.
It may not work. That may not happen this time. And now I'll let you go, Hugh.
Well, I've just got to say, we're news people, even though we're at the opinion section. It's got to be reported. Bucks County was reversed by the court and instructed to open up extra days because they violated the law and told people to go home. So that lawsuit was brought by the Republican National Committee, and it was successful. The Supreme Court ruled that Glenn Youngkin was successful. We are news people, even though we have opinions, and we have to report the whole story if we bring up part of the story. So yes, he's upset about Bucks County, but he was right, and he won in court. That's the story.
I'm just
watch what happens next.
Don't appreciate being lectured about reporting when many times you come here saying lots of things that aren't.
I won't come back, Jonathan. I'm done. This is the most unfair election ad I have ever been a part of. You guys are working. That's fine. I'm done.
Good for him.
So, Ruth, you wrote a column this week ending with this line. And actually, I think this
what's funny is right after this, her video seizes up and he's trying to go on with the show, even though this guy just quit on air. And he's got nobody to bounce off of, so it makes it even more awkward. But you know what? Here is a guy that's typically been
left.
Democrat. Left.
Yeah.
But he even said it. This is an election ad, is what it is. This isn't the news. This is you're like trying to set the stage for something. And he didn't want to be a part of it. And I tell you what, man, I found so much respect. I didn't know who Hewitt was. And I'll say this. If it was on the other side, and this was somebody on the right doing that to Joe Biden, I would feel the exact same way. Or Kamala.
Right.
I would feel the exact same way. You have a responsibility. You have this audience, and it has consequences when you do not report accurately and fairly. And to see him walk out and to stand up on his ideals, I mean, that was his job, and he walked out of it. You know what, dude? Awesome. And you know what, dude? While that was going on, I had a little ding go off on my phone. There is some really big news that just happened.
Uh-oh. What?
As we're talking. On the eve of Election Day, breaking news, Joe Rogan has just endorsed Donald Trump.
Ooh, snap.
Something I never would have thought I would have heard, bro.
If he would have said that 8 years ago, yeah,
No.
I mean, it wasn't even a possibility because he's always been very left leaning. But I think over the years, he's
One thing I love about Rogan, and I will say this openly, I think he's the best podcaster in the game, and his
Yeah.
ratings show that. He
Yeah.
really is something else, man. And I get jealous because I've seen him. He can talk to anybody, and he knows a little bit of everything, and he really has put his time in to that game, man. And
Right.
and he has elevated every single one of us. But I've also watched him have views that I know didn't necessarily agree with him on.
Yeah.
But I've also seen him when he knows that he's wrong, he will correct it. It might
Right.
take a little bit of time, but he corrects it. And I've tried to take inventory of myself. There's been many times over the years that if I go back and watch an episode of Dad Talk that I had a really strong view, and I
Yeah.
look at now and I'm like, oh, dude, I had that one wrong. You know, we grow as people, and that happens.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can do that is huge with me. And I think what happened when these assassination attempts, they tried to pull those off. I think that woke a lot of people up, man.
I think it did too. Yeah.
You know, and the fact that not just Trump, you got the assassination attempt that was done on him, but RFK joining Trump. You're talking about one of the most Democrat families of all time. And I'll openly say it, dude. Like, I was pulling for RFK. That was the guy that
You had the
was
t-shirt, yeah.
Yeah, I got the t-shirt. I went and met him. I loved him. I got a little hung up on it and was holding back from coming out and going full support of RFK because I was trying to get in there and find out where he stood on the father's rights thing.
Right.
And I talked to his team because I was trying to get him on the show, and I could never get them to make a comment on it. And I was like, hey, dude, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. You know, like, I hate to be so hard-headed about that one issue, but I'm going to be hard-headed about that issue. That's important to me. But I mean, common sense tells me it would be something that he would be behind. It's just, that's unfortunately right now, guys, people would be like, you know, with talking politics, why aren't you talking about family court or, you know, the reform for men? Because that doesn't win elections, guys. And if it won elections and it brought in the money, you could do it. But right now it doesn't. I mean, but things could change. Because over the past week, I've never really heard them talk about this before. And now it's becoming a very big subject. Kamala is getting the woman vote because of the abortion issue. But they're talking about the huge amount of support that Trump has got for men. They're talking about how important the voting block for men has gotten. And now you look at this with Joe Rogan, who's probably got that male dominant audience from 18 to, you know, 50 years old.
Right.
We are becoming a voter block, guys. And if us guys get together and say, hey, this is the hill that we're going to die on, this is the issue that we want out there, that's when you've got pull.
I've been saying that for about a decade now, but yeah. if the guys would come together as a block and say, look, we want equality, we want equal shared parenting passed at the federal level, or whatever we, you know, put forward and rally behind the right people to get it heard by the president, be surprised what may happen. And I believe one of us has had those opportunities thanks to the supporters and the people that have contributed to Dad Talk Today over the years, which, by the way, Dad Talk Today, Venmo, all that.
Yes,
Again,
please. It helps.
It's listener supported. It opens up doors for Eric. He is really the face of Dad Talk Today. It's not just the cute little logo he's got going on there. He is nationally recognized by a former president and a bunch of other people that are in that area. And in order to get him out in their faces again and to talk about this and get that going,
or to even be able to come on the show.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't been able to support my family with it like I once could.
Yeah.
You know, without those funds, man, we don't exist. I'm not going to take that big pharma money. And dude, don't think that I haven't had my opportunities with a lot of the people, man. I had some connections, and I will not sell myself on those morals. I will not do it. I do believe that we as a people can prop up our own. And, you know, I don't want to get into it. I'll talk about that on a future show, but It's been a minute since I've been on. One is just the resetting of the mind.
Right.
And politics is no different. I see some people with politics, dude, that all day long, all they do is sit there and talk about that online. And I'm like, this cannot be good. This
No, not
cannot
for your soul.
be good for them.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been trying to take a break and realize, like, this is what's important in life. You got to do everything in moderation. And
Right.
I haven't been able to get in and do it in moderation because for so long there was no moderation. It was just full blast.
Drinking from a fire hose. Yeah.
Resetting, yeah, and getting back in there. But, you know, getting back to that, man, I do think with this current landscape, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I think if Trump does pull out the victory, what message is that going to send to the mainstream media?
Ooh.
I mean, they pulled out all the stops from calling him Hitler,
Oh God.
doing just about everything. I think
Well-
that would be pretty much the moment that we say that was the nail in their coffin.
Yeah. Well, it was crazy after that assassination attempt, and you went out there to Google that information. You couldn't find it.
Well, dude, what information do we have about Thomas Crooks outside of his name? They couldn't get
Yeah.
anything. It was like his phone got scrubbed. They said when they got to his apartment, it was like somebody had taken care of that. He was cremated right away.
Yeah.
And it was a conversation for like a week. And then, you know, you had Obama and Clinton and everybody saying, hey, we need to dial this rhetoric down a little bit. You don't do this. And then the next week, he's Hitler. You know, it was right back. And if you ask me, it's even worse right now than it was before.
Well, one thing I kind of want to pick on is, you know, Obama would talk about how, you know, race divide, you know, we shouldn't let this happen and everybody. And then he's on there schooling a bunch of other black dudes that if you don't vote for Harris, you ain't black. I don't know if you remember that. He was standing there, he's talking to him. He's like, come on, brothers. You gotta vote. You can't be voting
Basically
for
what Joe Biden said in the last election cycle. You don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Exactly. And I'm like, and that's a lot of the reason why I can't even get into, because I sit there and I see this and I'm like, don't you all see what's going, like, I can't answer it because it's just so stupid.
I don't know that I've ever admitted this on the show. So you're going to hear it first here. I don't know if I have. I maybe have. I usually don't tell. I tell this to people in private because it was one of those things that blew my mind.
Right.
But when I was going around the country, I got invited to a trip to interview a bunch of candidates that were behind Father's Rights up in Baltimore.
Okay.
And so they were going to be having a rally that day. And this was the Republicans. They were going to be having a rally in downtown Baltimore. And they had Brandon Straka, the gay Republican guy that walked away from the Democrats. Very, very well known in the conservative movement. But we got the invite up there. And so I went up there that day. And as I'm interviewing all of the Republican candidates, guys, this is no lie. I think there was like 9 candidates. 8 of the 9 candidates, Republican, were black, which traditionally you're told that,
I thought we were
8
all
of the
racist.
9 candidates were black. And I'm sitting there and I'm interviewing one of the candidates. And this was at the time that the cities were burning across the USA and everything. The racial tensions was at a high.
Right.
But I started hearing in the distance, you could hear it coming down the road. No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? It was Black Lives Matter. And they were coming to clash with the Republicans. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be in the middle of this.
Right.
But I'm sitting there and I'm like, but I'm sitting here interviewing these guys, you know, 8 out of 9 of them, again, were black men running for office as Republicans. And here comes Black Lives Matter. And the guy that I'm interviewing, this black gentleman, said, look at these white boys coming to tell me my life matters. I look over, no lie, every bit of Black Lives Matter was white teenagers with rainbow colored hair.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here across from Black Lives Matter, a bunch of white teenagers with black male Republican candidates.
And you're confused. You're like,
and then
wait.
they start fighting. And I'm like, you can't make this up, guys. You literally just cannot make this up.
Yeah.
And then they just start going off at each other. I'll tell you what was crazy, dude. I mean, they literally sat there like across from each other, just screaming and making points. Nobody was trying to listen to anything. And I said, hold on. I was like, let's bring it down a little bit. And I said, I'm going to go interview Black Lives Matter.
Wow.
And I get over there, and when we start talking at first, they think I'm over there, or I'm a Republican, just like one of them. And they didn't want to talk to me in the beginning. Then they start, questioning me. What are you here about? I was like, look. I'm here for a very specific issue. I'm talking about fatherlessness. I'm talking about the family courts and making sure that we get the father back in the home and having strong families. And the guy I was talking to, he's like, well, I grew up without a father. I was like, so
No kidding.
So then I start talking. Well, one of the Republicans hear me, and then they start talking. And these two people that just, very shortly before that were sitting there just like screaming at each other, start telling each other their story about growing up without a dad.
Huh.
Next thing I know, a few of the other ones start doing the same thing. And it de-escalated the issue. Then they went back to the rhetoric not long after that, but it disbanded. But originally, I thought this thing was going to end up in a brawl. But once they got to kind of like pull the curtains back and talk to each other about this important issue that they were all going through, it found peace and common ground. That's the importance about what we're doing right now. I agree with you 100% right here, Missy. She says, whatever happens tomorrow, there's going to be total chaos in most parts of the country. I've said that. It doesn't matter which way it's going to go. And guys, we've got to remember that we are the adults and our kids are watching us. Our kids, this is the world that we're passing on. We can become a part of the chaos, or we can try to, decrease the conflict. What does the family courts do? They increase that conflict because it creates the profits. And so does the media. January 6th was great for them. They, that was media around the clock. They're still talking about it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You're still talking about it. When chaotic moments happen, people are watching the news and it makes ratings. We are better than that. We are so much better than that. And what, I don't know whether I should be happy or a little hurt by it. Right now, there's nobody in the audience that I've seen in the comments that is pulling for Kamala. And if there is, I say this respectful. Please tell us why you are pulling for her, what she's done, and why you're going to do that, and why you wouldn't want to vote the other way. I promise you, no stones are going to be thrown here. Right. I would like to hear it, and maybe we can conversate. But so far, nobody. And there's been a very warm welcome. And so if there is, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. I actually, back when I was an unbeliever, the things that I would watch and read were respectful debates between people of opposing ideas, and then the best idea won. And that's how I got to where I'm at today, as far from a religious perspective. The same thing for this. I want to hear from the other side, an educated, not throwing the, throwing the stones or the nonsense.
To your point, Dwayne, not to cut you off, but I will say, even though I could care less for Tim Walz, okay, that vice presidential debate that Vance and Walz had, it had class, man.
It did.
Those two treated each other with respect. They disagreed, but I was like, oh man, this was more presidential than the presidential debate.
They were almost ready to go get a beer afterwards.
And wouldn't that have been cool?
Oh, that would have been awesome.
We've got two people that we got to choose from here. Both are saying it's going to be total chaos. Both are saying that it's the end of the nation. And one way or another, it's going to be one or the other. So basically what your leaders are telling you is you're screwed either way. Rather than saying, look, we got completely different ways. Look, we've been going for over 300 years. We're going to get through this no matter what. I believe I can lead the country better than this one. But let's, I say the same thing about family court.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how much different family court would be if when you went inside the courtroom, they said, look, we understand that you two don't get along anymore.
Right.
But this is your child's father. This is your child's mother. Let's start this off by telling me the good things about them. Can you tell me, how they are a good father or a good mother, And then they started it off with them paying compliments before it goes mudslinging. I guarantee you that one little change, Dwayne, could flip that thing around. We started off with respect, but let's be honest, they don't want that, right? And it's the same thing in those debates. But those guys surprisingly did well, and it was good to see.
Yeah, it was refreshing. I was
was.
expecting another bloodbath, kind of like the one with Trump and Harris and the Biden.
Yeah.
Well, whichever. I mean,
Yeah, he had to do two.
Yeah, we had to do two of them. But I just didn't like that, the talking points, the thing, the Project 2025, which he's denounced a million times. And this was that bad media. The media was supporting the false information and then cutting Trump off, and it just became so obvious. It was like, okay, they're bought and paid for. Then you of course find out the stuff that Harris and the moderators were buddies and all the other stuff, and you're like, I want to hear the best of both ideas. Who's going to be able to do what. I'm going to take that against the backdrop of in Harris's case, what she's done over the last 3.5 years. I'm going to see how much my groceries cost, what my gas bill is, my job prospects, and all that.
They can do that. You want to know why? There's several things that Trump said he's doing that now Kamala says she's doing. No tax on tips, and there's several other things. So she could pay him a compliment because there were several things that she stole from the guy.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. And the child tax credit. But that's a whole other conversation there. But I would just want to get back to civility, but calling each other Hitler of all things. I mean, taking it back to the beginning, calling each other you're not. How can you possibly have a conversation? How can you possibly? The Dems talk about how they want to heal, but all you ever see out of them is call you Hitler.
Well, you know what? And that's somewhere that I'll bring some criticism in for DJT too.
Mm-hmm.
Is he doesn't make no bones about how he feels.
Oh, yeah.
So he can be divisive in his comments too. One of my biggest criticisms of Trump over the past 8 years, there's been times that I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, you do a good job with the country, but sometimes his mouth gets away with him, right?
Oh, yeah.
The one, to me, that really resonated the most with me, with the leadership and everything, was RFK. He was the one that was really talking about the political divide. I never heard through his whole campaign him call a name to Trump or Kamala. Right. Never did it. He criticized their policies, but he never called them names. And he was hitting on things like the deficit and stuff that nobody else was doing.
Right.
And there was a part of me that was really pulling him for him. That was like one of the biggest things. It's like, man, he acts presidential, and I feel like he would try to de-escalate things. But we're not there. A society that's ready for that yet.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. Like, dude, one of the most legit, what would be the word? Legit, genuine people I've met in my life. I've met a lot of politicians, guys. And a lot of times I want to go wash my hands afterwards because
shower.
They creep me out, okay? But the most legit, genuine that I've met was Dr. Ben Carson. Meeting him, guys, you could just tell, salt of the earth, human being,
right? Very
monotone and everything. And I think he could make a great president. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that charisma and that, he doesn't do that. And right now, that is what our society is looking for. As a YouTuber, as an online personality, you've got these different programs. AI is out now. It gives you title suggestions, what's going to perform the best in the algorithm or whatever. There's always going to be these keywords that they want you to use, like destroy or expose or
incinerate, insurrection.
Yeah. And it's like the more divisive that you become in your title, the better it does. Because unfortunately, we as people, we've played into that, man. It's like it's like a pro wrestling match. The good guy and the bad guy, and we cheer, I've compared for years politics to football games. People can have a team that they pull for. They're not even necessarily there. They have no reason to pull for that team other than that's my team and that's who I'm going to root for. And that's really what the left and the right has become like. What's sad is I'm very involved in politics, and like I dive deep to find out who supports what and who doesn't.
Yep.
Most people don't.
Right.
So if you ever see, I don't know if you ever watch those videos on YouTube where there'll be like a random YouTuber that's got a microphone and he just goes around and
Oh yeah.
puts the microphone. What is it that you like about Kamala? What is it that you like about Trump or this? And like they can't tell you anything.
Right.
It's the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. Yeah. Like why? And that's, again, we want the Dems. If you're a Democrat, come in here and say, hey, I'm voting for Harris because of X, Y, and Z. That does not involve Trump, as far as Trump's a bad guy or whatever. I mean, and I want to understand, because I can only read or learn so much. There may be a piece of information I'm missing. I'm always willing to hold that out. And I saw the WWE comment, and I'm totally with you on that. I'm totally with them. I've been saying that for decades. It's like, it's a WWE wrestling. They all know who's going to win, and it's all just to, prop up whoever.
So an interesting one here, Missy Brown. You got some great comments tonight. Thank you for that, Missy. She said, the thing about Kamala won't be running the country. I truly believe Obama will be in control. She has not done a thing in the last 4 years. I saw a video, I think it was just yesterday, of Obama saying, he didn't want to do the day-to-day stuff
Right.
in the office, but he would love to do another 4 years if there was somebody to be like the mouthpiece or something that he could just run it from behind and do it
Right.
from his house.
Kinda
And
pull
I'm
the
like, man, I
strings.
honestly think that's what's been happening with Joe Biden. I'll be honest, because
That boy,
Dude,
he's not there anymore.
he's not there. And he hasn't been
for a
there for
while.
a while. And that's all right. Let's go back to the media with that. For the last 3.5 years, we have been hearing that Joe Biden is
yeah.
the best version of Biden that he's ever been. He's sharp and everything. And we've been saying, no, flag down on the field. Something's going on here. The guy doesn't even know which direction. He can't even get himself off the stage.
Right.
He's fallen, like there were so many different things going on, but we were being gaslit and told that we weren't seeing what we were seeing and that this was made up. It was deep fakes and everything. And then when this, debate between him and Trump happened magically, oh man, the president, he's not looking so good. He's old. It's like, you're just now realizing that. But that goes to show you the credit they give you as American people if you don't go along with the agenda. They tried to tell you what you saw with your own two eyes was not real. They tried to convince you of that.
Yeah.
Again, election fraud.
Yeah, they were. I mean, the entire time. Biden. And they asked Harris. What do you, I mean? They asked I think the CNN thing. What do you think? I mean, now knowing what you know, what did you honestly believe about Biden during the last year or so? I think he was rock solid. He was commander in chief. He was strong. He commanded a room. And you're just looking at her like, you can't be that mistaken. You got to be lying.
Well, if
Couldn't do
anybody
it.
thinks that what we went through the last 4 years is good, looking at the prices and everything that's happened, I'd tell you, you might need to go get a cognitive test yourself. But the fact, when they just asked Kamala a couple of weeks ago, that is there anything that you would change if you would have been the president with Joe Biden? Is there anything you would have done differently? I can't think of anything. That should scare the living shit out of you.
Well, I do want to give Harris some credit. So get your recorders out.
Okay.
I want you to know that at 52 and a half years old, being through what I've been through, I can still lift $300 worth of groceries into my house and just in my arm. I can walk it in. $300, no problem. That may be 2 bags, but
The thing that upsets me the most, man, and that it's made it hard to talk about politics, is they've painted Trump out to be that Hitler, to be that racist,
right.
And all of his supporters are exactly the same. We have to be people that are, hating others, misogynist, and all this other stuff. It's not because of the gas prices. No, we really didn't like that. Gas being half the price of what it is now. We didn't like those cheaper groceries. It wasn't any of that. We're just racist. Right. And that's what's upset me for so long, because it's like, it reminds me of the silver bullet in family court. They put those false allegations on you. They don't have to have any evidence. It doesn't have to be true, but because they've put this negative stereotype on you, people will believe it.
Right.
And they have pushed that so hard. And I feel so bad for the communities. I do. And then again, I don't, that have played into that, because what went on years ago with slavery and everything was just absolutely wrong. It was horrendous. And they are taking that pain and suffering in this very bad period of time and trying to use it to scare people into being, you know, these loyal voters.
Right.
You know what should scare the Black community more than anything is the
yeah.
fatherless issue that's going on. What
Right.
they've done with Section 8, what they've done with VAWA. They have tried to replace the father with Big Daddy government.
Right.
And that might be an unpopular thing to say, but I think most of them would agree with it. They tried to take the father out of the home, and they have. Let's be honest, guys. It's almost 80%. That means almost 4 out of 5 Black kids are growing up without a father in the home. And what's so sad about that, Dwayne, is if you would have rewound this thing 50, 60 years ago, the Black family was one of the strongest family units on the face of this earth, man.
Be careful
And they
saying
started
that.
coming in and subsidizing and giving all these incentives, and they just dismantled this thing.
Well, and to show just how blinded people are, I talked about those very things on the Big Show a couple months ago, and I was repeatedly called a racist in the comment section by people. I talked about how hands down the Black family, before all this nonsense started, they were hands down the strongest, and we have data that 100% shows this.
Yes.
And that when the government got involved, their goal was to take the father out, to get the women on welfare, so on and so forth. And this is where we're at. And I was called a racist repeatedly for
But
that comment.
That's what they've been told to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Whenever you bring that up,
uh-huh.
it's because you're trying to take up for the racists, because that's their talking topic.
Right.
They can't dismantle anything that you're saying. They only can throw a label at you, because we're done with the conversation now. I can't hear anything else that you said, because you're blaming it on something else besides racism. It is a fact. If you look up those statistics,
on
it has
pissoffparent.com.
completely flip-flopped in the past 50 to 60 years.
Yep.
We're saying it was one of the strongest family units out there.
The
And now
strongest.
it's not the
Well,
strongest.
And then you have like a couple years ago, the whole Rittenhouse situation. People were calling Rittenhouse racist for shooting 3 white guys.
Man.
You just don't. And then when you would say, but what, they're white, and 2 of them had issues with children that they're not allowed within 100 yards of a school, and they just keep calling you a racist and calling you names, and you're like, but here are their pictures, here's their mugshots, this is what they did.
Dude, I grew up in the deep South my whole life. I just turned 40 last week. I'm not exactly proud of that, but it's better than the alternative.
Better than 52.
Okay. But I can honestly say, I don't remember the racial tensions being like that, man.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very big Black area, especially like Columbus, Georgia, which isn't far from
Oh,
me.
yeah.
It's one of the bigger parts of the country or the state with the Black community. And it was a very tight unit, but the racial tensions, of course, there's always been some there, but
Yeah.
not like what we've seen it the last 10, 12 years, you know?
Right.
And I was always trying to think like, man, what has really caused and stoked this division? And they create this fear and everything there. And it's just so sad, because that should be a conversation that people would be glad that you as a white man are talking about it, because you
Right.
care that
Right.
there is an issue there in the Black community and you want to see fathers back in the household. There's
Right.
been some problem when 4 out of 5 kids are growing up without their father. That's an issue. We know what the fatherless issue does.
Well,
And
you
what
know,
happens to a lot of those kids. Look, man, I'm not just making a talking topic and trying to do this from my studio, my comfortable little studio. I walk the streets of Baltimore.
I was getting ready
I
to bring
went
that.
to places that I shouldn't have been. They were like, who in the hell is this guy? And he's in the wrong side of the hood. It didn't scare me, because I knew what I was there for. And I had these
Right.
conversations. And I heard these boys that said, I grew up without a father. The streets was my father.
Yep.
And I got involved in the gang because it was like a family to me. They were looking for some sense of family. I've seen what it's done and how it dismantles that neighborhood. I've seen the guys that grew up in a disadvantaged home or went and sold some marijuana trying to get some money and got a felony on their record when they were a teenager, and now they can't get it off their record and can't get a good job.
Talking about Harris as AG. That's what Harris did when she was Attorney General.
It pains me to no end to see, stuff like that going on, because I care about everybody. I don't care about skin color, and we should be able to have those conversations. But when you tell us that we're not allowed to talk about it, or you get claimed you're a racist when you bring up facts like that, we've got a problem here.
I still remember you going down.
The one that would have the problem that you were trying to address it.
Yeah, well, I remember you going down to Division Street in Arlington to Lisa's Chicken to cover that one. Let's go back there. I'll be honest, I was a little nervous. You went down there, and I'm checking things out. And
did I let it intimidate me one bit, Dwayne?
No, you did what you had to do.
And
you got there, you had the conversation.
Who is this white? I'm not exactly white, but who is this white boy here? And I told her, I said, we are you. I didn't know him, but I knew him. Right. It might be weird for you to hear, but this father whose life was taken when he went, or it wasn't a custody exchange, he had his daughter. But that story had been played out time and time again through the stories that I have represented with Dad Talk. And we just lost another one of our brothers, even though I didn't know him in person. That was my brother. And I know what he was fighting for. And he lost his life because he was being a dad. And I'm here to fight for him and keep his memory alive. And you know what? I know she just commented on something on my page the other day, and they see the work that we've done. But I think there was a disconnect there because, what are they here for? It wasn't the glitz and the glamour. Yeah, by no means. There is no joy or glitz and glamour in covering stories where people are losing their lives.
Yep.
It was to sound that alarm and say, guys, look, something is happening. It doesn't matter your color. John Mass was white. Tyrone Darling was black. I have covered, many different races out there. What is happening is these fathers are being taken out of the home, and they are being killed when they try to go and have anything to do with their children, because this system is so broken. It doesn't give them rights upon birth. That's the crux of the matter here. All that other stuff is just fluff, man. Forget those details. The main detail is there was a life that was lost.
Yep.
All because he wanted to be a dad. I don't care about anything else. And we should be able to talk about those. And the fact that skin color has become this thing that is dividing so many people, man.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It really hurts my heart, man. And I'm going to tell you, even in the father's rights community, there's been a separation in the father's rights community. There's a lot of the groups have kind of split off and made their own groups, and they don't work together.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to end up going down a completely different area, and that's not what I'm meaning to do, but it is. Let's get back on the media.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the thing is, though, had that story barely made the news. It's become so commonplace that the media they'll either misreport it or they won't report about it at all because they don't want the world to know. I mean, that's just yet another media providing bad information. They should be doing their job.
Todd Ashley says the government knows they've been winning. Now they're getting called out on their tactics. Todd, I agree with that. And I've heard it said the media is shaking right now because there's a very good chance that Donald Trump's going to be your 47th president.
Yeah.
And after how many convictions, how many different allegations and lawsuits and stuff they've pulled out, all of this different media calling him Hitler, assassination attempts and everything, he might be about to win office. And what that's telling the media is, oh shit, we don't have the power that we once did.
Right.
And if he gets in there, we're going to be exposed. Right.
Yeah.
And it's about time, honestly. And again, it shouldn't matter who it is. The fact that they are misrepresenting people, and the ones that's getting screwed in the process is us.
Right.
I will say this. Hey, let me say something about the man. I don't know anybody else that could have went through 2 assassination attempts, getting shot in the ear, going through all of those convictions, going through all the hell that he has, and still be running. I don't know that there's anybody else on the face of this earth that could have put up with it like he did. I don't think there is.
That first assassination attempt, I'm within a millimeter of getting my brains blown out. I'd have been like, and I'm done. I mean, he said it. He could be sitting on a beach somewhere enjoying his billions and just watching the world burn. He's not going to do it. I couldn't do it. I ain't got the balls for it.
Got something that's gaslighting me now.
Uh-oh. Whoa, what we got?
He said, well, hell, remember that they used that on me in family court. Oh, Dad is a Trump supporter. Now that is used against me in court. Yeah. All right. So let me give you guys a story. And this one hurts my heart more than anything. Yeah. I'm going to keep names out of it, but you guys need to hear this. This is some of the bull crap that I've put up with doing Dad Talk. It's been about 2 years ago now. There was a story about a father in California that was a high school principal, and he got falsely accused by his wife of doing something one night, and they were drunk. And she called the cops, said he had like hit her or something like that. He went to jail. The next day, she said, oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not true, but it was too late. He had already been to jail. They found out about it. He lost his job as a principal. And because of this, he went and committed suicide.
Yep.
And I'm not going to give any more details because that'll tell you who it is. And that's not what I'm doing this for. But this one really hurt me because, again, we are not well funded. And we have very little opportunities. I have more stories that need to be told that I do not have the money to tell properly in the way they need to be told. I know how to tell them. I have the context and everything I need to tell them. I do not have the funds. But this was one of those stories that I went and like cheerleaded and everything and tried to find a way. And I had somebody that was going to put up the fund so that I could tell that story in documentary form. And I went all the way to California for this. Spent a week there. Not only that, I had like 4 other people with me. So you're looking at 4 or 5 different plane tickets, Airbnbs, cars, gas, food, camera crews, the equipment, the whole 9 yards, and spend the whole week there. And I was telling the story in a way that nobody else was. And you know why the family reached out to me, Dwayne? Because they had saw me report on it and Dad talking. It was an international story, man. It was huge.
Right.
And they said, you are the only one that told the story accurately. Yep. And we could tell your passion behind it. Everybody's been calling us wanting to get the story. We want to give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I thought, okay, they see my heart. They know what I'm going to do. Right. So I go and I bust my ass to get this so that I can get this story out there. Cause this is the type of story that can really get people's attention and shake it up, man. Mm-hmm. And that week while I'm there, all these people were supposed to know I was there. And like a lot of people weren't wanting to interview. And I was like, man, what's going on? I came all the way from Georgia out here to California. We've set all this up. And on the last day we were supposed to be filming, they didn't show up. And I get a call. It was like, we've gotten some concerns. We've heard from some people. They're afraid that you're anti-woke. That was the words they used. That you're
I remember this. Oh, God.
I am anti-woke. They was like, well, why? And I said, because the woke is the ones that's trying to erase the fathers. They're a lot of the reason behind this madness. And I was like, yeah, so I have my views on it. But I said, yeah, I'm anti-woke, but who's here telling your story?
Yeah.
It's like, that should tell you. It's not the woke telling your story. They're not going to do that because it's pro-dad.
Right.
They're going to tell the other side of the toxic masculinity and everything. But then they saw my picture with Donald Trump.
Yep.
Guys, I spent that whole week, all those resources and everything, all that filming. They never talked to me again because they found out that I had been with Donald Trump and was afraid I was anti-woke.
Right.
And it was that point, dude, that I had to do a lot of reflection because it's one of those like, why am I doing this now? Yeah. Like I went to the extent of doing everything I could to make them comfortable and, go out of my way to help. And that's one of the problems of doing things for free and having a big heart is people start to expect it out of you and they don't understand the level of commitment and work that goes into making it. But because of a disagreement in politics, the one voice that was there fighting for you this is what you do to them. That
Well,
sucks, man.
And to kind of add on to it, it's probably a detail you don't want to talk about, but actually, when you went, we talked about this. You didn't have the money to get out there. You like stretched some stuff, did some, hey, I'm not going to do this and pay this so I can make sure I can go out there and represent this family. And then they did that to you.
I put everything on hold, man. And
your family, I mean,
everything. Everything.
Yeah.
It's like I got,
the mortgage.
I got bills to pay. It's not, it's been hard doing the dad talk stuff because of the guys that's been through family court and screwed with the money.
Mm.
A lot of them have that PTSD, and they think anybody that has anything to do with family law, even talking about it, is out for money or out to screw people. And so I've tried very, very hard not to ask for help, because me as a guy, that hurts my pride anyway. I don't want to ask. I want to earn it. But I am in a position, and if I continue on with dad talk, then I'm about to have to start asking. It's just gotten that bad with this economy.
Right.
Like, it costs to have this program.
A lot.
Everything that I do. And it got me in a very bad tight because I was doing everything I could to get these stories out. And very little support on the back end. And then when I did get support and found somebody to invest in it, this is what happens. Those are the stories that a lot of people don't get to hear.
Oh yeah, you've got a treasure trove. I mean, off camera, there's I've been out to your place. You got a whiteboard filled with stories and ideas and stuff. But yeah, money. I mean, that there was the challenge. And again, and you can have listener support, the whole stars, the Venmos, the Cash Apps, and all that stuff, and also become a member on Substack. And you've produced videos that they can watch. They'll get something for their donation or their contributions. But yeah, and then again, the service you use to present your lives, they've raised their costs. I mean, that's something I'm painfully aware of. They've raised the costs, and there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, man. And I've got to address that sometime soon. I will. I wanted to get this out before the election and everything tomorrow. That is one of the things, guys, if you're watching this and you enjoy Dad Talk and you like what we do here and want to see it thrive, there's the links down at the bottom. It helps. And I am in a position that I just have to ask. And there's going to be people that criticize that. They'll just have to criticize. I don't see them doing it. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me.
Yeah, I got lots of
There
comments.
is another clip that I wanted to show you guys. Let's go back to the media.
Yes.
All right. So we was talking about this 60 Minutes thing and I got to give it to him. 60 Minutes, the guy that interviewed Kamala, he didn't let go on her.
Not.
He really hit her with some hard questions, but this will show you what she actually said versus how they edited it and then replayed it back out to you. This is alarming, guys. It really is. And thank you for those comments, guys. I do appreciate it. Here we go.
That Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill,
Nope. Part of some of the challenges we're having.
Come on.
Please enjoy the first 3 minutes of my new movie, Am I Racist? The #1 documentary of the decade.
You know what? Walsh, you should pay for this, man.
He should.
Your airtime right now. Let me skip.
By the way, I watched this. This is really good. All right, here we go.
the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Dude. Hold up, guys. Let's roll that back. I want you to take that in and look at what she said versus how.
A result of very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen. And
Look, this is interviews. This is going to happen. It was just a few short weeks ago. I had a interview on the news to talk about the new documentary with Alec Larson. And I'm not going to lie to you, dude. They started talking about the death of Sophia on there. And it was one of those, I had been struggling with my mental health and even being able to look at Dad Talk, because I've had some very bad damage doing this program. I'm not going to lie to you, dude. There's some dark spots. And I was jumping back in, trying to get back into it. And it was like my mind, when it would get on certain topics, just shuts down. And I'm trying to get over that still to this day. That's why I tried not to talk too much about the family law, even on tonight's episode. But in the middle of that news reporter started asking me about the death of Sophia, 5-year-old little girl that lost her life, and it could have been prevented if the father had rights. And I froze up like a deer in the headlights, Dwayne. It was like my brain said, shut off.
Yep.
And I'm in the middle of this live staring. Didn't think of the words.
Deer in the headlights.
Dude, that happens to us at times. Okay. There's going to be times like I suffer with brain fog, and that can be very embarrassing when you're on a show and you can't think of what to say. And I only bring that up because as I was watching Kamala doing that interview just then, there was a lot of word salad there. She was freezing up in between that. She was very nervous. Her body language told the whole story. She gave an answer that made absolutely no sense. It was just a group of words trying to get through the interview. That was a person just let me get through this as quick as I can. And then after they edited it, it was one of the only segments where she was very thorough, very clear, no pauses, nothing. And it was an answer to a completely different question that they took and put it on that one. Yep. Guys, that is interference.
Yeah.
That is fraud. If that was me, okay, on that program, and they asked me a question and I gave an answer and it sucked really badly, like the guy that I was talking about, the interview I did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then he went and took one of the segments where I did really good and put it on there. That's wrong. That's deceptive. Right. Okay. Now there's going to be in times when you're doing editing on a podcast where you cut out some of the uhs and the ahs and some of the dead space in between, some of the pauses. That's editing. That's needed. I can understand that. But when you're completely redoing the whole answer to it.
Yeah.
I mean, all ethics are gone.
Yeah.
And this isn't just something that happens every once in a while. It's happening all the time, man.
The whole teleprompter thing where she had her people telling everybody that she did not use a teleprompter, and the video shows clearly that she had a teleprompter. The thing had failed.
32 days. 32 days. You can even tell she was like, come on, 32 days. I don't know what to say next. Say what you want to about old DJT, man. Like, the guy doesn't need no teleprompter.
No.
And if
he goes off script
for 5 or 6 hours. The guy could do it and not have to stop. I don't know how he does it, dude. Because like I said, everybody, we deal with that brain fog. You're going to have those moments. I don't think that last debate was his best moment. But one thing you can say about that last debate is he wasn't reading from no teleprompter. I don't think he spent, 2 weeks practicing for that event like the other side. Yep. And it wasn't just Trump versus Kamala. It was him versus those news reporters. And it was sad because he had already went through one opponent with Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I cannot believe I'm saying this. We was talking about this before we came on the program. Out of all the debates, the news outlet that did the best job was CNN.
Yeah, I never thought I'd say
You're never going to hear me say that about anything else more than likely. But on that particular one, CNN did their job. And the rest of them has horrible, Fox included. The last time Fox did a debate with Chris Wallace, that was it was the worst one.
Yeah.
But dude, like the mainstream media has just lost all credibility with the people now. And so what's got to happen is there's got to be a media made by the people for the people, which is what we do with, stuff like this. Joe Rogan, it's it's sad for them that they spend all these millions of dollars and have, these big buildings and all these big production crews and all that to get what little views they're getting. And here's Joe Rogan with him and Jamie that are getting more views than all of them combined. That's got to be a bitter pill for them to swallow, dude.
It's got to be. Well, the thing that happened with Carlson, I mean, when he left Fox and did his own thing, everyone was like, and Tucker has kicked ass on the numbers on X. I mean, yeah, like your prediction, I think it's 8 years. I think mainstream media is going to be a thing of the past. We're going to be a Fox what, CNN who?
It is. Even if something goes haywire tomorrow, and for some reason he doesn't get in, I don't see that happening. I will tell you this. I can't tell you a single Republican that I've ever talked to that said they participated in a poll. And if you go back to 2016, I remember watching that night. I ended up going to sleep because I had to work really early the next morning because everybody was saying there was no use in Trump even running. It was a joke. Yeah. Hillary was so far ahead in the polls, like he had no chance. I remember waking up early that next morning and seeing that he won. I'm like, what? Like, nobody was expecting it. And she was way ahead in the polls. Well, now the polls are saying they're like this. And anytime the poll says she's up, once the election actually happens, it comes back up. So I think we could be looking at a Reagan type landslide tomorrow, dude.
That I was around for that one. That was something else because people were talking back in the day, and Ronnie, he kicked butt. I mean, it was something else. Oh,
and for good reason. I have went back and I've tried to be a student of the game because there's so much you can learn. I might even pull this up and let people hear it. If you'll go back, there was one of the best interviews I've ever heard. Ronald Reagan was on Johnny Carson. He was explaining what inflation was.
Yeah.
He was also explaining how that the other side will always try to blame it on corporate greed and taxing the rich, not paying their fair share.
Right. I know.
And all I can think of is like Dana Carvey doing Joe Biden on SNL. The rich don't pay their fair. I'm like, dude, Reagan was right on. But he was predicting this years ago. And he really breaks it down for you on, just we think that we're getting so much of our dollar when we're really not. He was talking about in 75 how they was already taxing over half of our dollar. When we get it, because not only are you getting taxed before you get paid, then you're paying off of everything that you buy, and then all the other taxes that come with it. By the time you look at it, we have a very, very small percentage of our dollar actually belongs to us.
Right.
And that dollar is not what it once used to be, folks.
No, it is not.
It is not. And now that we are, what is it, $37 trillion in debt?
37. I actually, on the Pissed Off Parent show, I pulled up there's a live feed update, $37 trillion in the year 2035. Social Security recipients are going to get a 20% reduction in their monthly check, everybody across the board. These things are coming. And we have got to start making some tough decisions. We got to get the right people in the right spots.
One of the biggest rock stars of this election that is really fighting back at the censorship, the free speech, and giving the middle finger, and I don't think gets enough credit, is Elon Musk. And I have been talking about Elon for years now. And a lot of people in the conservative circles were always talking about him being transhumanism and all this, like he's going to be the Antichrist and all that. I'm like, guys, shut up. He is a cool guy. Yeah. Yes, I know he's had some problems with his kids and stuff like that. Anytime you talk about somebody with any type of admiration or something, they'll start trying to find like any little fault they can to get it off. And I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, here is a guy that had FU money. Like, they started trying to censor on Twitter. He bought Twitter. It doesn't become any more of a boss move than that.
Right. Yeah.
Or when he was at that convention not long ago in front of Bob Iger, and he's like, "You're gonna try to bribe me with money? Fuck you."
He
said it right in front of him. And you know why he did that, Dwayne? Because he can.
Yeah.
Because he's Elon Musk. The fact that he's giving away $1 million a day up there in Pennsylvania with that
voter registration. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
The-
I mean, the guy really has been a champion of free speech. And what we're seeing now is this very big movement. I mean, dude, Trump really has the dream team. You've got Elon Musk, you've got RFK, Rogan, who just endorsed him. I never thought that would happen.
yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard, the list goes on. And the left has the same celebrities that they always have. And the best comment that Tony Hinchcliffe did there at Madison Square Garden that I thought was ridiculous. He said, every day, all these celebrities that keep coming out for Kamala is starting to look more like a P. Diddy party. I was like, oh,
yeah. Well, you know, it goes back to that conversation.
Thank you, Todd. Vivek
Oh,
Ramaswamy. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something. Here's, I'm sorry, I ain't meaning to cut you
Oh.
off. Keep that thought, but I got to say this before I forget it. Thank you, Todd, for bringing up Vivek. Here's some of the stuff with Dad Talk that you guys haven't got to see that I am sitting on, and I want you to see. I've done a lot of filming, including being over in England where I interviewed Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I
Yeah.
was there with Dr. Warren Farrell and Dr. Oz and Dennis Prager. And then just a few short months before that, I was up in Iowa for the caucus and Ron DeSantis and Vivek and everything. I did not know who Vivek was at that point in time. I had became very estranged with politics. I hated it.
Right.
Because I got to see what really goes on in
Right.
politics, being
Yep.
there. And like, I've been
24/7.
in the inner circles, dude. It's not what people think it is. If you watch the news, you have no ideas what politics really is. And so I had been so separated from it. I didn't even know who Vivek was. And he started making some rumblings there. And I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know about the guy. But I ended up having to go to that. I had to go because of filming reasons. And when I got there, Vivek was one of the speakers. All of the Republican candidates was there besides Donald Trump. And I witnessed something truly remarkable, dude. Every one of those candidates that was there sounded like puppets. They all sounded exactly the same, beside Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know to call him Vivek is he even gave us a really funny story. He said, I tell people it's Vivek like cake. And he said, I told this to one man that was going to have to introduce me one night. And when he got up to introduce me, he said, Vivek like cake. He said he thought that was my name, Vivek like cake, because everybody else was calling him Vivek.
Yeah.
But I had never, I've been in a lot of the different media situations, dude. But that day they have what's called a gaggle. I don't know if you've ever been to a gaggle. Do you know what that is?
No. Like a gaggle is a bunch of, a gaggle is something like a bunch of, yeah, I don't. Let's just guy that you got me stumped.
So, okay. So a gaggle is like when you're at a political function or anywhere where there is a lot of media, they'll
Mhm.
have like a back room where all the media is allowed to come in there with the person in the middle, and then they take questions.
Okay.
Out of all the different situations I had in gaggles I had been a part of, I'd never heard it actually called a gaggle until that. So
Hmm.
I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
I know it now.
Knowledge
But
is power. Yeah.
it's a long way of getting into that. But I watched as all of these different media outlets sat there and questioned Vivek. And I've never seen anybody handle the media like that guy did.
You did a good job.
Ever. And he won me over that night. Not only that, again, the only one that didn't sound like a puppet. Some of the guys came out and took a few pictures and shook hands, and then they got the hell out of there. Mike Pence didn't want to meet anybody or talk to anybody. He told him he wasn't going to do it. But I watched after that was done in Iowa. Vivek went and stood in the middle of the room with thousands of people there and said, I'm not leaving until I meet every single one of them and shake their hands.
Wow.
And he did. Took pictures with every single one of them, took the questions. And at the end of the night, he had promised me an interview, and he was like, come with me. And so I've got footage of me and Vivek
Wow.
walking out of the building. I'm interviewing him as we're both walking, and everybody's coming behind us. And I started talking to him about Title 4D.
Ooh.
Surprisingly, the guy knows about Title 4D.
Really?
And I asked him, like, what was his biggest thing, of reforming the family courts? He said, you've got to get the incentives out of family court. We have to stop incentivizing fatherlessness.
Right.
We have too much money that is going into making sure that the fathers aren't in the home, and we got to get the father back in the home. And like every answer that he had, I was sitting there, like my mind I've interviewed thousands of legislators up to this point. Most of the time,
They blow
I'm
smoke up
having
your
to
ass.
educate them on the laws that they have the power,
Right.
to create and stuff like that. This guy knew it,
Wow.
and he was very sharp with it, and he answered everything right. And I was like, wow, I just met a real guy.
Yeah.
Like a real guy that's running in politics, and reminds me a lot of Donald Trump. He wasn't a politician; he was a businessman.
Just think
And
what
I
would
have
happen.
that footage, and I would like to get it out there. For those that don't know, I was making a documentary on the life of Dr. Warren Farrell. That guy has done so much for this movement, guys, and just for men in general. And he was one of the first in the. He doesn't like being called men's rights or father's rights, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that to Warren.
Yeah.
He was one of the ones to first put a spot on the inequality, and he started off as a feminist.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
And I wish people could see what he went through being the head of one of the biggest feminist organizations out there, and then saying, hold up, I've had it wrong. It's actually the men that are being oppressed. And like he lost so much money,
Yeah.
Dwayne, millions and millions
Yes.
of dollars,
Yep.
and was disowned by, he was on all the big talk shows and everything. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. And I
Right.
don't think he's ever gotten enough credit for the things that he actually done. And I was working on his life story, and that was one of the
wow.
ones I ran out of money. I've got several of those stories and lots of footage that people haven't got to see because they don't have the money to put it together.
Right.
But that's one of them. And that was where I got to talk to Vivek up in Iowa. And I'm going to tell you, that guy just straight up blew me away. And I think that's one of the guys. You want a politician that can get on a main stage that would talk about fatherless issues.
Yeah.
He'll do it. Guarantee you he will.
If we could get enough people excited, rallying, moving, getting you in front of these people, who knows what could happen?
Getting the cart before the horse. It's been one of the things, is finding out where to pick back up and start back off. Is I realized where I put a lot of my attention. I say I put a lot of my attention in the wrong places, but it was because I put my attention in those places and did what I did that I know where to go now.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But if I had the money now that I did then, trying to find that out and that discovery, we'd be in a
Yeah.
lot better place. There is a way to get it done. And I'll talk about that a little bit more with people, maybe on my personal page off of Dad Talk. But I have had the conversations with people like him, and I tell you, man, that is a smart guy, and that's somebody that I could see leading our country in the future. I do hope maybe next go around, RFK, maybe.
Yeah. He's getting a little older, but you would support Vivek? He's not a white supremacist, right? I thought us
Supremacists.
us conservatives, we only can support a. I don't know. I find that funny because, like, I've actually wanted Sarah Palin back in the day. Actually, Ben Carson. I voted for him in the primaries back into the 2016. I voted for him.
Let me tell you something. Dr. Ben Carson, one of the nicest, most genuine people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Now, he was one of those that upset me when I had him on the show, because that was a big thing to get somebody like him on Dad Talk. The amount of disrespect that he got when he came on the show, like, because people that were left didn't want to give him any credit for coming on. There was people that called him stupid. I'm like, dude,
Ben Carson,
yeah,
stupid.
one of the smartest
I
men on the face of the earth.
wish I could be 1/10 as stupid.
You
as
ain't
him.
kidding, dude.
Oh my god, the guy's smart as a whip.
When it came to the issues about family court and fatherlessness, he's not very aware.
Well,
But
yeah,
he was one of those that's willing to learn, because he grew
Listen.
up without a dad, dude.
right.
His story was actually a very, very sad one. And I was told by another politician that he kind of grew up right in my area for a little bit. And so I didn't know that. I wish I'd have knew that when I was talking to Ben. But his dad was with his mom and everything. And he ended up leaving his mom and him because he had a whole other family they didn't know about.
Yeah.
He went back to that family. So that's why he went through fatherlessness. So that is a really close to home issue with him. And he is somebody that I know. I've talked to his team numerous times. One thing that always made me feel good and let me know that I was talking to somebody genuine is I would meet a lot of these people and have these really deep, meaningful conversations with these politicians and these candidates. And the next time I see them, they're like, hey, who are you?
Right.
Don't know who you are. That wasn't the case with Ben. Every time he saw me, came up, shook my hand, knew who we were. Same thing with Colonel Allen West. And, there was ones that I noted in the back of my head. That's the real deal right there. And they'll always remember you because that conversation meant something to them.
Right.
And that was what happened with Ben. Now, so like I'm at CPAC. There's 100 different media outlets there. Every single one of them wants him on there for an interview, obviously, because he is who he is. And his team gave him the message that I was there as a part of the media and what I was talking about. And you got to understand, like all those media outlets there, they're just talking straight politics.
Right.
Here I am talking about fatherlessness. I was one of the only ones that came there with something different, dude. And we tore it up on that feedback.
I remember those videos. Yeah.
No lie. We were one of the biggest and most successful booths there that year. But they said, we're going to tell Dr. Carson that you're here and what you stand for. And I guarantee you he's going to want to talk to you. Later on, I see a member of his team and he said, we talked to Dr. Carson, like he heard what you're talking about. He wants to talk to you. So no lie, I'm in the back room and he walks in and everybody stands up and wanting to go talk to him and everything. Fox News was right there. They go up to talk to him and he goes, 1 second, I'll be right with you. And walked straight up to me.
Man.
And was like, how are you doing? And shook my hand. I've got a picture of that when it happened. He wanted to talk about that issue. He walked past everybody else. And that was just one of those moments that meant a lot to me because I was there for an issue. I wasn't there to get over with politics and stuff like that. To know that your work is being recognized, dude, is one of the most meaningful things that you can get.
Yeah.
When doing something like this. And that lets me know that you don't have to be a college graduate in journalism. You don't have to be with one of these big news networks. I mean, all that does right now is it gives you like a fancy title. As long as you stand for the right things and fight, and let me say something about that too, guys. If you stand for the right things and you fight and you want to be heard and you want to make a platform that creates change, that comes with very big opposition. It comes with a lot of hate.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how much support Donald Trump has got. Look how much hate comes along with it.
Right.
I'd say the same thing for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or anybody that's running. Look, they've got their detractors, they've got their supporters. But when you go out and you fight for something, it's not the easiest,
Right.
But when you get out there and you see those moments where you're capturing the attention of people that have the ability to change, man, that's some of the best moments out there, Dwayne. And that was one I'll never forget, bro.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's important for everybody to rally behind you and, help you get more of those opportunities. Subscribe to the Substack, become a supporter. And so you can start going, you know what, maybe I can get back out there and talk to Vivek, talk to Carson, talk to Trump, talk to whoever is in, political power and change their mind. Because if I remember the timeline, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because when you got a chance to talk to him, it was a little bit or sometime later when he came out on the national stage and talked about it. Was it before or after? I want to make sure. I don't want to,
I think
after.
Are you sure you're not talking about Ted Nugent?
No, well, Nugent's another one. No, it was Vivek. I mean, he came out on the national stage and talked about.
Yeah, no. So that was what was different. Usually, when I was talking to those politicians, I was, educating them on it, and then they would go and talk about it like after that. No, Vivek was doing it before he met me, dude.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was before or after. Yeah,
that was one of the things that got my attention. Is like nobody had really did it.
Okay,
before that, he was doing it already. He was already well educated on it.
Right.
Very rare.
It is very rare, and
very rare.
And you've
most
met
of those politicians you talk to, man. They don't even know what Title 4D is.
Yeah, they have no clue. Well, you've met Trump twice. He knows who you are. He knows what you're about. Imagine what would happen if he
maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
think it's pretty sharp. He probably would remember you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think he's got a gift of knowing who's there and making everybody feel special.
Yeah.
That's a gift, dude.
Well, just imagine what would happen if whatever he becomes our 47th president, and you're able to meet him again because you've already established that relationship. What could happen?
At the point when Mar-a-Lago got raided out the documents, one of those cases.
Yeah.
At that point in time, I was in the middle of organizing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Alongside a very well-known person that was running for Congress. They was going to be doing a meeting for Dad Talk, to specifically talk about fathers' rights, like a round table in Bedminster at his golf club.
Yeah.
And we was working on that, dude, and I could not wait. And then when that happened at Mar-a-Lago and he got raided, everything shut down.
Right.
Understandable. From that moment on, the guy was fighting like hell every week, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we were that close.
Well,
We were that close. And that's a person that would have some power to do something on it.
Well,
And he has made statements about fatherlessness and stuff before. And I think it's something, if anybody was going to buck the system, man, he
be him.
Doesn't matter. And I will tell you, when I was there the first time, all of us guys was outside excited that we finally got to meet him. And I was there with a guy that ran for lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania and several others. We was all out there. It was like, oh man, we finally did it and everything. And Ivanka came walking up, and she was so super sweet, dude. And she had her kids with her, and she came over there, talked to every single one of us, introduced herself. And I got to talk to her in length about the movement and what we're wanting to do. And she said, I can guarantee you Dad will want to get behind this. And so it was just one of those, man, the timing, then again, to get it back there, I don't really want to start going to political conventions and all that stuff like I was doing at one point in time. I think we could do it here.
Yeah. That's possible.
But anyway, dude, I think we are probably almost 2 hours into it.
It's 2 hours in. So much for the short to the point. I hope everybody's enjoyed kind of this round table talking about the media, talking about, what's going to happen tomorrow, the future, and all that good stuff.
I can tell you right now, the censorship is off the charts. I knew it would be with like the name and stuff on it. That was one of the things I'm hoping will change with this too. I think we would have been already in that world where podcasts were really your media source. But anybody that had an opposition voice or anything was just getting censored like crazy. And that's came out in the open now. They've openly admitted a lot of these platforms that they were censoring, certain people.
Zuckerberg.
Dad Talk was a force when it came on the scene. It grew quickly. I had 10,000 followers before the first podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, to get 3,000 or 5,000 views just on the Facebook alone, every time I went live. And then after CPAC, if you could have seen how drastically the numbers changed in the censorship that came after that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous, man. And I had a gentleman that ran one of those that he had to get in touch with somebody for Facebook that actually worked on it and got his reversed. And we were trying to do it too, man, but they would never lift the restrictions off of Dad Talk. And it makes it when you're an independent media outlet, that's what you got.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Alex Jones, dude. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you that guy did some out there stuff. What he did with the Sandy Hook thing, it was out there.
Yeah.
But he has also been on the side of some things that
he's been right.
Oh my God, he's been right about so much.
Yeah.
I think one of the most boss moments ever in the history of politics. This has probably got to be at the very top when they took him to trial in that last one. They said, you made statements that there were people involved in politics that were involved in human trafficking. And he said, you mean like Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons? He didn't even
flinch.
He didn't even have to think about it. It just popped out. And the whole room was like, oh my God, they've made so many clips about that.
Yeah.
I was like, the balls that it took. He already knew he was screwed. I mean, they got him for $100 million on that lawsuit. That guy will never be able to pay that money to Wayne, ever.
Oh yeah.
But it was meant, take him out.
Right.
Don't want him in here. I mean, this guy was talking about the Bohemian Grove years, decades before anybody else.
For the
You
video
went down
pops.
that rabbit hole yet?
I started to. I've seen the videos with the Bushes and a bunch of others, and it's one of those. If I want to keep my sanity, which is always I had to like just pull away and go. You know what? That's gonna be one of those things. I'm okay with the mystery. I can't go. I can't dive into it.
Well, when you blind yourself, dude.
I had to
tell
on that
you,
one.
That one. It is though. It's one of those that
I saw
drive you
enough.
crazy.
I
'Cause
saw
it's like-
enough.
It's not long ago. There was a gentleman. So far, Alex Jones was the only one that ever got it on video.
Right.
Until about 6 months ago, there was a kid. They still don't know who he is. You got to check this video out. It's crazy for anybody that hasn't seen it. This guy gets like a little canoe, goes to Bohemian Grove, and gets in the canoe with an iron skillet. And the weather was horrible, but he paddles himself with this iron skillet all the way up into Bohemian Grove. They got security everywhere. And he
Yes.
sneaks around and everything. And he gets all the way up to the owl, turns the light on. Is like, here you go. He walks you inside of the owl, walks you all around Bohemian Grove. And not only
Wow.
did he do it once, he did it twice.
Wow.
And you can watch it. And it's several hours long, dude. But
Wow.
go check it out. That just happened not
Wow.
too long ago. And when you see it, it's just like, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah.
One thing I noticed about politics, I mean, we've all been around rich people and stuff like that, I'm sure. But dude, when you get there and you're around that high society and people that got like money on another level,
Right.
you know, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about life.
Yeah.
In some of those places, you feel like you don't even matter. You know, they
Yeah.
got so much money. It's like a completely different style of life. And that's
Right.
what you're talking about in those secret societies, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've done a lot of investigation reading and stuff, but there's certain ones like that when I'm like, if I go down this path, I just don't know what I'll be able to do with myself. It's too much.
Well, now let's take that back. And I've heard Rogan make this point with Alex. Alex has said some stuff completely off the charts, some of it batshit, but there's also been tons of it that he said that ended up being true.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you're this guy that does nothing but sits there and digs into these conspiracy theories and stuff that goes on, and you're finding, credibility in a lot of this
Right.
and stuff that a lot of people don't even want to touch, and you're uncovering this, it probably would make you feel like you're going crazy. You probably
yeah.
would start questioning everything.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, one that a lot of people know about is the Hunter Biden or the Biden laptop. For so long, the mainstream media said it didn't exist. It was Russian disinformation, and look what happened.
I got one that might get me in some trouble with the platform. I'll say it anyway. Have you seen where Joan Rivers, they asked her if we would ever have a gay president, and she said we already got one,
Yeah.
and was talking about Michelle Obama.
Yep.
And not
Mike.
long after that statement, she died, and it was well documented. There was some medical malpractice there.
Yep.
I'll stop it there.
Yeah.
And you have to really search for that video, but it was plain as day,
Yeah.
And I think that's fueled that whole conspiracy about Big Mike.
Big Mike.
But yeah, dude. But there is conspiracy theories out there, and sometimes they are true. And if you're that guy
Right.
that's constantly in that world, going down that deep rabbit hole, that's got to have an effect on the mind.
It's
And
got to.
I feel that way with Alex. Now, one of my earlier shows actually had his ex-wife on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Must have been interesting.
It was. And she even said, for a long time, Alex was a guy, he was really trying to fight back against that corruption.
Right.
And she claims they have a parental alienation case going on with him. But I can
Right.
tell you, dude, when it comes to Bohemian Grove and a lot of that stuff, that was a guy, I mean, independent journalist doing this stuff way years and years before podcast became a thing.
Right.
And I think there's things that can be learned from, you know, stuff like that. But at this point, guys, what I think I might be doing tomorrow, you know, we got a few people left in here. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel about if I opened up the hotline tomorrow? And no matter what side of the aisle you're on, what your thoughts are, maybe open up the hotline, let people give their thoughts on the upcoming election and everything. And we do this thing again tomorrow. And it'll give me
Sure.
more time to make sure more people know about it. And
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
I'm up for it.
It's gonna be interesting, man. I'm hoping that's a little bit more peaceful than last time.
God, I hope so.
I hope so too, man. You know, the reality is we're in a very bad spot right now as a country.
Yeah.
But I remember 4 years ago they said we wouldn't make it those 4 years. The reality is we'll make it through another 4 years regardless.
Yeah.
Might not be, you know,
Won't be pretty.
a great outcome. We might have a very horrible economy, but
Yeah.
I think we'll make it. But we've got to learn to come together as people and start. You know, it's like we was talking about with family court. The first thing they do is find the mud and make you sling at each other what you know dislike about each other. We have more in common than we do differences, I think, as people.
Yeah. I think Lance's last comment kind of covers it right there.
Yeah. See it?
Blanket,
Yes.
why not? I'm in. All right.
Yeah. Let's do it, man. I'll probably have to get a new number. I'll hook up a hotline, let you guys, because I want to hear from you. One of the main reasons I was doing this tonight is I wanted to hear from people that don't agree with me.
Yeah.
We didn't get anything.
Yeah, I
We
know.
didn't get
That's
anything on
weird.
that, Dwayne. Maybe we will, but I can tell you they got the thumb down on it. So
It's like Missy's
all right,
asking.
man. With that being
about,
said, guys, make sure to like, share, or subscribe. I don't know what time it will be, but sometime tomorrow we'll do it again. If you would like to support our podcast, down there at the bottom, Dad Talk Today, no spaces, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or you can just message me directly, man. I am looking for people that would like to sponsor some of these projects, that would like to sponsor the podcast.
Yep.
If you got a product or something that you would like to get some exposure on, I'd be glad to put it out there. Any way that you can support, we're open for it. I've got some other things in the works. Hopefully I can bring to you guys soon. And I have missed you. I've missed all of you. I just got to find some other things to talk about besides family court all the time.
Maybe a variety show. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll get it. All right, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow.